Hey, this is Sabrina. Um, Today we're going to talk about this probably backwards book, Antifa, the Anti-fascist Handbook. Um, I pronounce it Antifa, which is the European way. Um, Antifa is fine too. They're both right. Um, so this book is by Mark Bray. He was one of the organizers for Occupy Wall Street and wrote a book on the anarchism. Well, it's called Translating Anarchy, the Anarchism of Occupy Wall Street. He, at least in 2017 when this was written, was a lecturer at Dartmouth. Maybe still is, I don't know. He's a historian of human rights, terrorism, and political radicalism, especially in modern Europe. And I've seen interviews with him. He's well educated on the subject. A very good person to be writing this book. So it was written in 2017. That's 8 years ago. Doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was eons ago in terms of the political climate. This was kind of written as a warning for the rise of fascism. And now in the United States, we live under a fascist regime. And if you live in France or Italy or the Netherlands or plenty of other places, then you do too. That was not the case in 2017. So, yeah, a lot's changed for the worse. All for the worse. I don't think anything's any better than it was in 2017. So, yeah, now it's not so much a warning as just what can we do? And this book, we're going to go through it a little bit. I'm using this to just try and do something worthwhile. You cannot live under a fascist regime and do nothing. You can leave, and that's totally okay. And I want to really, 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 really badly. And yeah, being transgender and autistic, I don't think too many people could fault me for leaving. Even though I'm not a person of color, which would just make it so much worse, but there's enough things that I have to worry about that weigh on me, make it hard to leave my apartment or even my bed, which is why I'm filming this from bed, because that's all the energy and the resources I've got. I don't even put on makeup. I don't even shave that often. I just don't have it in me to do much. So, but this is something I can do. I can talk about these sources that can be helpful to us. And this is one of them, and I want to do more. I want to start out doing book reviews and some other things, maybe documentaries or something, but some media that we can read, watch, listen to, whatever. Maybe even some music. There's some great anti-fascist music. And that we can use to inspire us, to help us cope, to give us strategies and knowledge that we need to fight. So that's what I want to be talking about on this channel. I'm going to start with this book. I do want to put this all towards a dissertation when and if I get accepted into a PhD program for English Lit. I've got the master's. I'm trying to go for a PhD. But that's down the road, but I'm kind of keeping that in mind because I want to write my dissertation on anarchism, anti-fascism, and being queer theory. I'm trans and queer of various sorts. So yeah, putting all that together, there is a movement in the 20th, 21st century we're seeing more writers talk about these kind of things, queer writers that are talking about anarchism and leftism, leftist things, and anti-capitalist, anti-fascist, that kind of thing. There's YouTube creators that are doing that, so I want to look into that and delve into it, and so I'm kind of doing that with this channel. But most of all, it's just telling people, the half a dozen or so that might see this, who knows though, that here's a source that's good to look into to help understand what's going on and maybe what we could do about it. So just kind of going through the structure of this book. Chapter 1 looks at fascism and anti-fascism. Oh my god, that's my cat. He's like right behind the ring light, sniffing around. Good god. So chapter 1 looks at the anti-fascism through 1945, so pretty much like the first half of the 20th century. The fascism and anti-fascism of that period. Chapter 2 goes from 1945 to 2003. Lhasa, knock it off. Okay, got interrupted by a cat because it's an hour till DINNER, so of course they're asking now, one in particular. Where was it? Okay, so yeah, chapter 1, chapter 2 look at the movements of anti-fascism and fascism, first half of the 20th century and then the second half. Chapter 3, the rise of pinstripe Nazis and anti-fascism today, so it looks at the current situation and also looks into how fascism can be found and always has been able to be found in the boardroom, the halls of government, the universities, etc., hiding. And now they're not hiding. They don't need to hide anymore. They've always been there, and now they're out, coming out into the light. Like fucking Musk. Rich boy with rich family, bunch of fucking Nazis. So, chapter 5 is 5 historical lessons for anti-fascists, and I will break those down here in a bit. That's chapter 4. Yeah, chapter 5 is so much for the tolerant left, no platform, and free speech. Which looks at the concept of free speech, how it used to be kind of a leftist ideal, and then it became a right-wing ideal when they wanted to spread hate speech and Nazi bullshit, and we're getting pushed back for it, so then they were all, no, free speech, and then now that they're in power, of course, they're shutting down all kinds of, I mean, look at, they made it so that the government can't mention transgender. The word is gone. So yeah, and the idea of no platform is to fight fascism. You don't say, well, they have the right to speech, because fascism relies on violence against minorities, marginalized people. It relies upon oppressing those people. It relies upon hate speech. That's not hyperbole. That's not, I'm not exaggerating that. I'm not just saying, oh, it always has been, so it probably will in the future. No, I mean, that is what fascism is. If there's fascism, you have to have this. You have to have hate speech. You have to have marginalized groups that you scapegoat, target, oppress, kill. That's what fascism is. So it's not just, it tends to, it is that. So when you give a fascist the right to speak publicly, then you're giving someone the right to incite violence, murder against marginalized people. Even if they're not stating that directly, that is what it is. That is what it leads to. It can only lead to that. It can only be that. So no platform for fascists. Ever. You shut them down. Fuck free speech when it comes to fascists. No, you shut them down. So it talks about that. Chapter 6, strategy, nonviolence, and everyday anti-fascism. And the nonviolence, the non is in parentheses, the violence is not. So strategy against fascism. Sometimes it's nonviolent, sometimes it's violent. Fascism is inherently violent. Like I said, it has to be. That's what it is, that's what it does, that's what it's for, and it's against marginalized groups. You create an ideal that's always masculine, that's always the same skin color as the majority of the people or the ruling class. You create the ideal person, and everybody that falls short of that, the further short they are, the more they are second-class citizens or not citizens at all, not worthy of respect. It's totally okay to kill them. You're certainly seeing that today. Look at how immigrants are being treated, and people that aren't immigrants just look like they're immigrants, and yet they're citizens of the United States. Look at how they're being treated. You've got MAGA and all that shit openly stating transgenderism needs to be eradicated from society. Yeah, they're not saying kill every transgender person. They're saying transgender people aren't people. They're not worthy of your respect. They don't actually exist. So when you see someone that says that they are, not only are they misinformed, but they're a cancer that's going to spread that ism, that ideology. So they need to be stopped by any means necessary. That's their rhetoric. That's what they're saying boldly. So they're saying I shouldn't exist. So yeah, to stop them, you need strategies, and sometimes the strategies are violent. Then the book concludes, it's titled Goodnight White Pride, or Whiteness is Indefensible. Mark Bray is not a person of color. But that is a slogan amongst anti-fascists, amongst anarchists. Goodnight White Pride. Love that. Which, basically means you see someone touting white supremacist rhetoric, you're totally in the right to punch them in the face or kick the shit out of them or whatever. I'm not speaking for Mark Bray here, but yeah, he does, of course, go into we need to use very extreme measures sometimes. He quotes in the conclusion at the beginning, he quotes a popular slogan from protests against the Trump travel ban in early 2017 that says, "First they came for the Muslims and we said, not this time, motherfuckers." And of course that's referring to the poem, I forget what it's called, but from for after World War II, I guess, the Nazi thing of first they came for these people, but I wasn't that, so I didn't say anything. Then they came for these people, but I wasn't that, so I didn't say anything. And then finally, it's like there was no one left but me. They finally came for people like me, and it was too late. I couldn't do anything about it. This is saying, no, we don't let it get to that. We say, first they came for the Muslims, and we said, not this time, motherfuckers, and you shut them down. So that's where this book comes from. It's not pulling punches. It's not glorifying violence, but it's not shying away from it. And to be honest, we need more of that. I'm not trying to be weird about it or extreme about it. It's just Fascism is violence. That's what it is. That's all it can be. And if you let it continue, then that violence will be perpetrated on more and more people. People that are simply not the right color, not the right gender, not the right religion, etc., etc., etc. And it just keeps going. So there is a philosophy of, well, to enact violence against something in order to stop the violence that's going to continue is acceptable. And that's where we are. So to look at chapter 4 a little more in depth, 5 historical lessons for anti-fascists. There's my kitty, one of them. That's Lhasa, who's back. Yeah, look at that a little closer. So it gives the 5 lessons, so they're in bold, and then it explains each lesson. It kind of reminds me of On Tyranny, Timothy Snyder. Almost aphorisms, very, very brief little ideas, little lessons, little sayings, whatever, and then it explains them. So that's what he's doing here. Lesson number 1, fascist revolutions have never succeeded. Fascists gain power legally. This is true. Fascism has capitalism running in its blood. It's the blood of fascism is capitalism. It's that reliant on it. So it does not come from the bottom up. It does not come from those at the bottom where revolutions come from. Instead, it needs to gain power legally, although the current fuck up that's befouling the Oval Office currently did not get there legally. It was quite illegal in several different ways, but it had the illusion of legality and plenty of lawyers involved as well. So same thing. So that's true, and something to keep in mind. Fascism is not a revolution. It's not about those oppressed rising up. It's about those on the top increasing their control. Yeah, they may use it by looking at these, Mussolini was a 2-bit thug with very few followers, and he joined the movement already in progress. Hitler was a nothing moron when he joined the Nazis. So yeah, and you would look at those people and be like, yeah, they've got no shot of getting any power or doing anything because they're just fucking moron idiots with fringe ideas that are completely nonsensical, and there's nothing to be afraid of there. But they're spouting these things and getting people upset about this group is making your country not as great as it once was. That mythologized history. So yeah, you can get people riled up so that they will vote and actively work against their own best interests. That's the way it always happens. And that's what's happening here. That's what MAGA is all about. So it's not from the bottom up like a revolution. It's from the top, further oppressing those below. That's why fascist revolutions have never succeeded. They gain power legally. Lesson number 2, to varying degrees, many interwar anti-fascist leaders and theorists assumed that fascism was simply a variant of traditional counter-revolutionary politics. They did not take it seriously enough until it was too late. The interwar period was very, very interesting. World War I changed civilization completely in many ways, a lot of them very screwed up and like the world had never seen before. So there was a lot of reaction to that, and a lot of being disoriented from all of that. and fascism was rising, but it was still not much. Um, Shortly after World War I ended. But the leaders for socialism, communism, anarchism, like I was saying before, how these supposed leaders, the Italian fascists and the German fascists, they were just morons. They were nobodies. They were not going to amount to anything, you would think. So it wasn't taken seriously until it was too late. And then lesson 3 is kind of similar. It's for ideological and organizational reasons. Socialist and communist leadership was often slower to accurately assess the threat of fascism and slower to advocate militant anti-fascist responses than their party's rank and file membership. Now, the Democratic Party is not socialist. There's a few democratic socialists in it. But it's far from being a socialist. It can be argued that it's not even on the left. It's slightly right of center, I would say, but maybe left of center, if you whatever. But it's very much not socialist in any way. But still, we're seeing the Democratic Party not realizing the threat, not taking action. Oh, let's wait it out until the next election cycle. Knowing that the last 3 election cycles, there's been all kinds of cheating, 3 presidential, as well as the ones in between, from the right. And then they've really learned how to do it, to succeed at it, and getting their people in the right places to verify those vote counts and all that. So you cannot expect a fair election in 2 years, or a year and a half. For the Democrats to say, oh, let's just wait, is disgusting, because people are dying. People are being targeted. People are being deported that should not be. So that's just our leadership on the left failing, not taking proper action. Whereas the rank and file are out in the streets in the millions practically every weekend, going to Bernie and AOC rallies, hearing good messages, but I think hoping most of all to hear them say things that they're not, like we need to impeach, we need to remove, we need to lock him away. He should never be anywhere near politics again, and neither should any of his cabinet members. But they're not saying that. They're getting people riled up, saying this is all wrong. This is, in a danger to our Constitution. But they're not taking the action that the rank and file, us masses, know needs to happen now, and they're not doing it. And this is typical. Lesson 4, fascism steals from left ideology, strategy, imagery, and culture. This is an important one. You get disingenuous and or ignorant people, often on the right, and usually it's just they're being disingenuous. They want to convince people, they want to make an argument that's complete nonsense. But they'll say, like, well, the Nazis had socialism in their name, so they were leftists, they were socialists. So these socialists that you have around now and anarchists and stuff, they're actually like closer to the Nazis than MAGA is. That's bullshit. That's obviously bullshit. Yeah, the Nazis stole that word socialism, Socialist Workers' Party, because socialism was a big deal in the first half of the 20th century. The socialist movements, anarchist movements, obviously communist movements, even though the USSR never got anywhere close to being communist, nowhere near it. And they weren't even really trying, at least not after the first few years. but the movements of workers' unions, you saw the Spanish Civil War, which, yeah, the fascists won, but only because fucking Stalin betrayed the leftists, especially the anarchists. Disgusting. But you had these socialist movements, these anarchist movements that were making huge strides. And the only reason it didn't succeed completely was because it doesn't take much time before the rich start pumping in all the money, all their power into stopping these things through coercion, violence, misinformation, espionage, whatever, all these things at their disposal. And so it corrupts it. But anyway, so yeah, that socialist movement was huge. Anarchism was huge. And the color of anarchism was black. Louis Michel invented the black flags, totally black flag. In the Paris Commune, late 1800s, that was the anarchist symbol. That's the anarchist color. And yet the Italian fascists stole that color for their thugs that were going around and trying to intimidate and kill socialists and anarchists and that kind of thing. They dressed in black, not only to appear intimidating, but also to appear left-leaning anarchists. The Nazis used the word socialism, and then the SS used black as well. The Nazis first used brown, but socialism and workers were in their name to convince the masses to join them and vote against and work against their own interests. It was done to deceive them. And that's what fascism has to do, because at its core, at its heart, yeah, fascism has these male-worshipping, military-worshipping, mythologizing of national ideology and identity that appeals to people, some people, even though it's all lies. But at its heart, what fascism really needs, capitalism and squashing the lower classes, very much top down. People aren't going to vote for that. People aren't going to work for that. People aren't going to fight for that. So you have to give them these things, these make America great again slogans and that kind of thing, to mythologize the history of a nation and say that, well, the reason we're not so great anymore is because of these people and these people and these people. It's the Jewish people, it's the queers, it's the people of color, it's the disabled people. So fascism has to steal from the left the strategies, ideologies, imagery, and culture. It has to do that. So it always does. It's doing it today. Number 5, it doesn't take that many fascists to make fascism. And here, the book makes an interesting point. In 1919, Mussolini's party that he had joined already in progress, he didn't create it, it had 100 members. When he was appointed prime minister in 1922, it had grown a lot, but it was still only 7 to 8% of the Italian population. Only 35 of the more than 500 members of parliament belonged to the Italian fascists. And then the German Workers' Party only had 54 members when Hitler attended his first meeting. And then when he was appointed chancellor in 1933, only about 1.3% of the population belonged to the Nazi Party. It doesn't take many. And that's how they're working now. Trump definitely did not get the majority vote. They stole a lot of votes. They reassigned them. They took a lot of voters off the million, like over 3 million voters off the rolls that were predominantly, almost exclusively people of color. So yeah, it wasn't the real win. They stole it. And a lot of people were voting because they thought they were voting to lower the price of eggs, and that bullshit. Even though it was obvious that Trump's policies were not going to do any of that. So they weren't a part of the movement or whatever. They were just doing what they somehow were convinced was best. That's how it has to work. It doesn't take that many fascists to make fascism. The people that are actually the big part of this are very few, and we've let them get into the topmost power and all that cabinet and people that verify the votes and all that kind of stuff. It's very few, but they've now got a lot of power. So that's how fascism works. Anti-fascism needs to not let it persist, not ever say this is unfortunate, but it'll go away. Not ever say I don't have enough power. I don't have the resources to do this. I've been saying that because I'm so overwhelmed, which is the point. It's why there's 100 stories, different stories every day about some new horror that's being enacted by the government. Keeps us very tired and disoriented and not right in the head. So this is at least something, my way of saying something. But to sum up, this is a good book. It's an important book. I'm going to go through a lot more of these important books. There are a lot of them out there. Some of them you can get for free. I'll definitely be going through a lot of those. Some of them you can get for free, and they're pretty hardcore. I've downloaded some of these. I don't know if I'm on a list somewhere now or not, but I've got to arm myself with knowledge as much as I can. So anyway, take care of yourselves. Fight fascism every time you see it, when you're able to do so. It's never safe. But yeah, don't get yourself taken out too soon. Yeah, we've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to take care of each other. Watch out for each other. Stand up for each other. And withdraw when we need to. Sometimes we need to. And as much as the right may love that, it's just one of those things we have to do, and then we can come back stronger. And that the right won't love so much. So, yeah, if nothing else, arm yourself with knowledge, and then use that knowledge. Find a way to use that knowledge. That's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to find a way. So I hope to do a lot more of these. I hope you're staying as well as you can, mentally as healthy as you can. It's very, very, very difficult these days. That's the point. But keep after it. Stay healthy. Stay rested. We need our energy. And we need knowledge. And yeah, that's all I got to say. All right. See you next time.